if you're only listening to this episode of GUcast, I suggest you go home and have a quick look at the YouTube or the TikToks or whatever, because here in my hand is the final version of me having done robotic radical prostatectomy on this beautiful little simulation model. Where is the prostate? There's the prostate. There it is there. This beautiful little prostate and seminal vesicles was buried deep inside this model, but what you see now is the urethra and the bladder, where I've joined it all back together. And it all took place inside this model you can see here, which is from a company called UroTrainer. UroTrainer. So that's what we're going to talk about on this episode of GUcast. We're going to talk about the use of simulation models like these beautiful models I'm showing you here. And we're going to speak to a couple of urologists who've been very involved in this for the past few years. Let's go to Argentina and join our friends Gonzalo Vitagliano and Maxi Ringa, who are joining us from Buenos Aires to tell us all about UroTrainer. Gonzalo and Maxi, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Nice to have you.
Yeah, look, it's great to have you, and apologies, it's me on my own today. Renew is in Singapore at a meeting, but she will definitely be all over this because she's very much involved in training in our centre at Peter Mac, and she's Director of Urology at Epworth, our big private centre. So this whole topic of training, of simulation, especially when it comes to robotic surgery, which is what we're going to talk predominantly about today, is very important. So UroTrainer, of course, I've seen this around for a few years, but I want you to, first of all, Gonzalo, take us back and tell us, what is UroTrainer and why is there a thing called UroTrainer and what do you do at UroTrainer?
Well, thanks, Declan, for having us here. It's a pleasure. Well, back in 2020, UroTrainer came about with the idea of solving the problem we had with training. We used to train, all of us trained, our fellows or our residents, they trained with the Halsteadian model, the idea of seeing a surgery, helping a surgery, and then finally doing a surgery. But surgeries have evolved, and robotics and laparoscopic, they're complex surgeries. Oncologic, urological surgery is a demanding and complex surgeries. We're all about results today. So we cannot allow ourselves to train that way. We need to catch up with training, and training has to be up to date. So with that idea, we set it up first with our kidney model. It was a kidney with a bunch of tumors, different scenarios, different renal scores. We validated that kidney model. We published that kidney model, and we started training. And something funny happened, to the world, the 2020 pandemic, right? So when the lockdown came, we were able to keep on training all residents and fellows in Latin America remotely. So we had the honor and the pleasure of setting up the first hands-on remote program for laparoscopic uro-oncology. And we trained residents from Mexico down to Argentina. We would ship the models, we would log on, we would have side-by-side computers and iPads, and we would monitor the training, and we set up courses. We did a lot of courses. CAU trusted us with that endeavor. And we also did very nice courses during the congresses, not only remotely, but when the lockdown was lifted, we were starting our hands-on training courses, on site during courses, or even maybe on site in institutions and training centers.
Well, that's one of the most intriguing parts of it because, traditionally, even when we have got access to laboratories and to simulators and so on, it's still required, taking a few days off during the week, getting to a center, going into one of these, dedicated training areas and so on. There's always costs associated. But so you're saying that it was the pandemic that actually accelerated the idea of the remote courses, that you can be at home it could be an evening or a morning, and the models, these beautiful models, can be sent to you, and then you have you're not just playing around on your own. You've got the faculty or the staff are dialing in remotely on the laptop or whatever, and so there is still kind of hands-on training while people have the models at home. That's the format, I think, of the remote courses.
Yes, let me tell you, we had one course that we were running. We had people from Central America, South America, Europe, and Middle East at the same time. One of them had to leave the course. He said, please, Professor, let me excuse myself because we have a bomb warning and I have to leave the premises. So we had that anecdote in UroTrainer. Let me tell you that. So that gives you an idea of the widespread use and the availability of a model that you can have, right? And that you can easily use.
Well, it's amazing. And Maxi, can I ask you your sense of this? So you're a urologist as well. You're both at the German hospital in Buenos Aires. What's your sense of these models? Again, for the sake of the camera, I'm holding up, this beautiful model. I have to say the fidelity to me seems extraordinary. I did this procedure myself, and I must say I was incredibly impressed with how realistic it was. And I'm imagining our more junior trainees having the opportunity to do this, as part of their curriculum. They may have done their simulator training and their online training and watched lots of cases, but then to get the opportunity to do something like this prior to attempting surgery in real life is extraordinary. So tell me what's your experience of watching this in development as a urologist, but also working with the team at UroTrainer, where you're also involved.
Yeah, thank you for having this opportunity. I live the whole process of UroTrainer. I did my urologic oncology training with Gonzalo. I practice with usual exercises for urethral anastomosis and with different homemade models.
Yeah.
And when Gonzalo started with this idea and a really big team working on develop this, not this at the beginning, but the kidney model at the beginning, there were multiple versions and a really hard work from the whole UroTrainer team to work not only with the anatomy, but also with materials that mimics real scenario tissues and elasticity, and yeah, to make real things. So it took a really hard work, and there were multiple models. I had the opportunity to test all of them, and I think that particularly the BP model, which is the prostate with also the bladder, I think it's a masterpiece. I think it mimics really well all the anatomy, but also the tissue elasticity. So it helps to train really good dissection, bladder neck dissection, neurovascular bundle preservations, but also the anastomosis. I think it's a really well done model, and it helps a lot in training. And what I saw when we did the first validation for the kidney model, we did that with multiple novice, but also with expert surgeons, and we got a really good feedback, and that pushed the whole UroTrainer team to do something more challenging. That was the prostate, and that one is I think it's the third version. So it took multiple versions to get like a really good model that helps to train, and which now we can train with the whole procedure, not just anastomosis, but also resection, and I think that's a really good thing.
I totally agree. A masterpiece, he says. I agree. And you can tell it's been developed by urologists, as people who do a prostatectomy. Now, what we're going to do in a moment is I'm going to play you a short movie that we actually made when myself and two of my fellows, Eoin, Dinneen and Christa Babst, were sent your models. And we spent a whole afternoon stretching into an evening doing a prostatectomy on these models. So we're going to take you into Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre Theatre in an evening where we were doing that on a Da Vinci Xi system. And it was for a study that you're doing, which we want to ask you about in a few moments. But also when we come back from this little movie, I want to talk to you, Gonzalo, about, why we need these models. So why we need to move not just from the old Halstedian knowledge, but also the models of live animals and cadavers and so on, and the challenges associated. But let's first of all have a look at this short movie that we made while we were in the operating room with these models from UroTrainer. Friday afternoon here at Peter Mac. Not our normal setup in the operating theatre. Instead of having a patient asleep on the operating table, we're doing some robotic prostatectomy training, which we love doing here with Christa, my senior fellow. Christa, how are you?
I'm good. Liking it.
This is not like normal assisting.
No, it's easier.
Yeah, so we've got...
It's not bleeding here.
It's not bleeding, so we'll show you some great footage of this model, this beautiful radical prostatectomy model from our friends at UroTrainer in Buenos Aires, and they've sent over 3 of these models to us to do a practice prostatectomy on for a part of a research project that they're doing. I'll hold one up to the camera there for those of you watching on YouTube. I've just done this prostatectomy. Here it is, beautiful little prostate with seminal vesicles. And here's my anastomosis. Yeah, there you go. Used to be a prostate in there, and now we've joined it all nicely together. And Eoin, Dinneen, our other senior fellow, is on the console. I'll turn the camera around so we can have a look at Eoin. He's on the second prostate of the afternoon. Hey, Eoin. No pressure. You're up against the clock here. I believe the Buenos Aires team want to see how quickly people can do these prostatectomies. So as you work, what do you think of this model?
Yeah, it's nice, yeah. So there's some key advantages. My patient doesn't seem to be bleeding today, and obviously the instrumentation is all the same. Actually, some of the traction and counter traction, which help you to make progress, is incredibly similar. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
And what about the realism of the model? Is the bladder neck? Does the orientation feel good? Is it a good model for trainees?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, within we're working with plastic here, and so the feel of the tissue is of course very different, but it does have all the key components that you might expect for a prostate. So we've got a bladder neck. We're going to come down into the vas and the seminal vesicles after the bladder neck. We have the apex is quite similar. We've got structures to identify the neurovascular bundles. We've got the DVC. We've already tied off the DVC, not something that we normally do now here, but one of the key steps that they asked us to perform. So yeah, all the structures are there.
Very good. And so we've been sent 3 of these models from Buenos Aires so that we can do them as part of a paper, part of a trial that Gonzalo and his team are doing. So we've done 1.5 already, and over here in the box this is your prostate, Christa, about to come up here. You hold my microphone. Let me take this out and see what sort of prostate is it. Do you think this looks like a good prostate for you for a Friday afternoon here at Peter Mac?
Oh, that's a perfect prostate. That's like the perfect 35cc prostate in a wide pelvis.
Yeah, no median lobe, nothing like that. Now this patient tells us that he has good quality erections, and he's got a small PIRADS 4 lesion. His PSMA PET CT shows quite confined disease, so we need you to do bilateral nerve sparing. Do you fancy that?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, coming up here on this episode of GUcast, Christa's going to do a prostatectomy on this nice prostate. Well, so there you go. If you're watching that on YouTube, you got a really good look at these models in action. If not, I hope you at least in our comments got a sense of what we really think about that. But I have to say, Gonzalo and Maxi, spending a few hours with these models was very, very enjoyable. It was fun to work with Eoin and Christa, who themselves are very proficient on the robot, but they're still in their training period. And they were very, very impressed. They have done your online questionnaires because this is part of a study that we'll talk to Maxi about in a few minutes. But before we do, Gonzalo, I want to, go back and have a chat with you about still what is our current pathway for training, especially, let's say, for example, robotic surgery, robotic prostatectomy or renal surgery, which is, okay, we all do some online training and then residents are getting training but, the courses are still something that, especially for traditional open surgeons or laparoscopic surgeons transitioning to the robot, you've got to find your way to one of these laboratories where you're going to do either some sort of a live animal work with anesthetized pigs or whatever, or perhaps some cadaver work. So these have traditionally been sort of the Rolls Royce end of training, as close to operating in humans, but without exposing patients themselves to learning curve and so on. And I'll share with you, I've recently had to do a bit of that myself, even though I finished my own training many years ago. But we've recently introduced the single port Da Vinci robot here in Australia just a couple of weeks ago. So myself and my colleague Daniel Moon had spent many months, overseas doing courses and watching other surgeons operate. But then a couple of weeks ago, we went to Strasbourg to the Intuitive facility, which is a fantastic facility at URCAD. And we spent a day with live anesthetized pigs and then a day with cadavers doing it. So, it is an extraordinary resource to be doing that. There are limitations with it, but clearly one of the big limitations are costs and the sort of facility you need for that. But can you tell me yourself your take on the value of that sort of high-end training with live anesthetized animals and cadavers and sort of the challenges and limitations?
Well, exactly. As you mentioned, the animal models and the cadaver models, I mean, they may be the Rolls Royce of training today, but they're not enough. And I mean, animal models are still high cost. They need infrastructure specific. You need a veterinary, right? They have shared use. I mean, the pig is not for just one trainee. The pig is probably for the whole day. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know if you even can make bacon out of that. So there's ethical concerns. Not everybody feels comfortable doing surgery on animals. Nowadays, I mean, this back in the day was not a thing, but now it is, right? Cadaver models, they're also expensive. Also, there's cultural limits with cadaver models and also ethical concerns. And there's no bleeding. In cadaver models. And there's this tissue responsiveness is not just the same. It's not just one would feel that operating a cadaver is operating a human that is not alive, but it's not the same. So there's a lot of concerns. And also, I mean, there's no specific surgery to do. I mean, if you want to do a partial nephrectomy on a porcine kidney, you don't have a tumor. You don't have a tumor plane. You cannot do an enucleation, okay? You just have a kidney, probably an intraperitoneal kidney, right? And if you do a cadaver model, well, it only comes with one prostate. So there's a lot of limitations. It's not easy. So nowadays we're looking for that that specific training model that also helps us to get metrics, because you don't want to just train. You want to do a professionally based training program where you can get the data, you can see how the trainee is following through the program, you can correct him, and for that, you need a specific model that's always the same. You cannot have something that has variations, changes, or different setups or fields. You need the specific model once, and once again. That's the way to go, and you need a model that is technically at the same level as the mechanics you're using. You have a top-notch model, the SP you're trying out now, right? Well, you need something that is, according to that kind of high resourceful material in the training setting, and that's where UroTrainer comes about.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with all those comments, and to scale up training, and as you say, to make it standardized, we have to move away from those sorts of models, and the idea of being able to do remote training and all that is fantastic. And also the quality of these models. I mean, we've all used really rubbish sort of little models over the years, but I have to say the fidelity of these are extraordinary. And Maxi, you guys are very academic the way UroTrainer have approached this. And as I mentioned, we've recently participated in a validation study and sent you the videos and the data for this. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you do academic work on these courses or on these models? I suppose as part of your continuous improvement process, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there are two different things. For the courses that we have been doing, we also have an evaluation of each trainee, and we get them our feedback, and we compare from the first to the last training session how they perform, and how they improve their skills. But now we are performing a validation project which consists in validating this model for our robotic assisted radical prostatectomy. This project is involving people from all around the world, North America, Europe, South America, Asia, and also at your center. So we are really happy, and the idea is to get face content and concept validation with not only subjective assessment like chairs, but also with objective assessment with what the European robotic urological section from the EAU. They in 2021 they said that the metrics that should be follow up in people training for radical prostatectomy, and we're using those metrics in this validation project. And the idea is to compare novice and experts, at least 25 on each group, and to get the validation of this model.
Fantastic. And then we'll put all the links in the show notes, Gonzalo, so people can find more, or just Google UroTrainer. UroTrainer.com, I think, is the main website. And I do see links regularly at the EAU, AUA, and so on. But can you tell us, please, about ongoing or upcoming activities? I know a lot of trainees listen and watch to this podcast. So tell us a little bit about some of the activities you've got going on or you've got planned, and how people can track you down.
Oh, great. Thanks for that opportunity. Well, I mean, just in a week's time, we're doing the Andalusian Society in the southern Spain course, which Maxi and I were going to be assisting remotely. And we got our proctors on site. We got dear friends from the Andalusian Society, Álvaro Juárez. And like a week after that, we're doing an on-site course here in Argentina. We're getting people from Venezuela, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Uruguay. Everybody's traveling here down. We're going to have 2 days of on-site training, and then they're going to come with Maxi and myself to the OR, and we're going to do 2 robotic radical prostatectomies. And at the same time, we have our course, which is more like not so packed, it's like a 3-month course where we ship a lot of models and to every trainee, and they have their lectures and they do their training, and they have supervised training and unsupervised training. So they do a lot of surgeries by the end of the course. Then they have an evaluation, and that's also SIU certified, right? We have a joint effort with the SIU, which is very neat. They're endorsing our courses. And after that, we'll be in CAU. We're going to be in Panama also, where we're doing some on-site courses. And, it goes like that, and also remote courses in Europe and in Americas.
Wow, what an effort. Just fantastic. Well, look, it's been fantastic to speak to you about it. And thank you once again for the privilege of letting myself and Christa and Eoin not just participate in the validation, but especially to spend a very enjoyable few hours working with this beautiful model. I have to say, I am blown away. And I think you guys are the best in the business. And I wish you all the best with further development of these models, and especially with the ongoing courses that you're running around the place. It's just awesome.
Well, thank you. Stay tuned, because we're changing materials on the same model you're using. So the next versions are going to blow your mind, for sure. They're in the lab now. I cannot show it to you, but probably in a couple of months, you get a little box, a little present, you open the door, this little UroTrainer box, and you say, hey, Gonzalo remembered. You're going to get blown away, for sure.
Well, look, it's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gonzalo. Thank you very much, Maxi, for joining us. That's all we have time for on this episode of GUcast, but all the links are in the show notes, or just Google UroTrainer. These really are beautiful models. And as Gonzalo and Maxi pointed out, we have to move away from the traditional training, and these really high quality models are definitely a way to go, especially with the quality of the in-person and remote courses that UroTrainer offer. Thanks very much to the gents for joining us, and we'll be back soon with another episode of GUcast.